Marching Powder, 2025, Film Reviews. Marching Powder directed by Nick Love and starring Danny Dyer. Stephanie Leonidas. Is a British dark comedy drama centered on Jack, a middle-aged, cocaine-addicted football hooligan given 6 weeks by a court to reform his life or face prison. The film, marketed as a rom-com with a kick, explores themes of redemption, toxic masculinity, and strained relationships, set against a backdrop of drugs, violence, and crude humor. It has received polarizing reviews, with critics and audiences split over its tone, execution, and relevance. Below is a comprehensive summary of the film's reviews, drawing from various sources, including critical analyses and user feedback. Plot overview. Jack, Danny Dyer, a 45-year-old football thug, is arrested for drug possession and street fighting. A judge gives him 6 weeks to turn his life around, repair his marriage to Danny, Stephanie Leonidas, manage his bullying father-in-law, Jeff Bell, and guide his troubled step-brother Kenny Boy, Callum McNabb. Despite his efforts, Jack's addictions and lifestyle pull him back, leading to a chaotic spiral. The film blends dark comedy, drama, and social commentary, with frequent fourth-wall breaks and a non-judgmental stance on drug use, earning it a rare 18 certificate from the BBFC for strong violence, language, drug use, and sexual content. Critical reception. Positive reviews. Some critics and viewers appreciate Marching Powder for its energy, unapologetic style, and Danny Dyer's charismatic performance. Highlights include: The Guardian praises the film's energy and chutzpah, noting its cheerfully non-judgmental attitude to drugs and Dyer's watchable performance, particularly his outrageous fourth-wall breaks. Reviewer Peter Bradshaw describes it as a broad, unsubtle comedy that lands with an uncompromising crunch, appealing to fans of Nick Love's earlier work like The Football Factory. Film Review Daily calls it a stylish, disturbing, witty state-of-the-nation romp, acknowledging its divisive nature but appreciating its bold take on contemporary Britain. The review highlights Stephanie Leonidas' performance as Danny, noting her easygoing naturalism adds soul to the project. Root finds it watchable in its waywardness, emphasizing tender moments amid the chaos and the chemistry between Dyer and Leonidas. It suggests Dyer is a better actor than often credited, and Leonidas' performance keeps viewers invested despite the film's repetitive nature. IMDb user reviews include positive takes, with one viewer describing it as entertainingly horrific, with improvised scenes, like a babysitting sequence, that add color. Another calls it a solid, creative, quirky film tailored for the British football crowd, praising Dyer's entertaining performance and the director's vision. Reddit feedback includes some enjoyment, with one user calling it silly, camp, violent and fun for those who like Love's earlier films, recommending it to fans of The Football Factory. These reviews appreciate the film's gritty charm, nostalgic throwback to early 2000s British crime comedies, and its refusal to shy away from controversial themes. The animated opening sequence is frequently noted as a strong start, setting up the backstory with vibrant visuals. Negative reviews. Conversely, many critics and audiences find Marching Powder dated, unfocused, and offensive, criticizing its lack of depth, tonal inconsistency, and reliance on crude humor. Key criticisms include: High on Films labels it the first defining film of Keir Starmer's Britain, but in a negative sense, calling it dull, mean-spirited, and dated. The review slams its repetitive narrative, lack of character development, and casual bigotry, including transphobia, ableism, and misogyny, arguing it panders to an outdated audience without meaningful commentary. Little White Lies describes it as boorish, small-minded, and insignificant. arguing it's a relic of the nasty naughties with cheap shots at marginalized groups. The review questions its relevance, noting that platforms like Lads Mags that once boosted Love's films are obsolete. Empire finds it a tough sell, criticizing the lack of real redemption for Jack and the film's indulgence in his misanthropy. It notes that Dyer's charm can't fully salvage the rancid script, and the film fails to engage with real emotion. Rotten Tomatoes aggregates mixed sentiments, with one review giving it a 1.5, stating it has nothing interesting to say about toxic masculinity, despite Dyer's spirited performance. Another calls it like slipping back to the early days of Guy Ritchie, only nothing like as good. Daily Mail gives a 1-star review, calling it brutish and crass, with excessive use of the C word and a lack of redeeming qualities. It suggests Dyer's involvement adds to his roll call of bad films. Nuss argues it fails to tackle complex themes like This Is England or Train Spotting, feeling like a film for a bygone era, with tasteless, sexist jokes and no sharp comedic edge. Reddit and IMDb user reviews express disappointment, with one calling it one of the worst films, due to its generic plot and reliance on vulgarity for laughs. Another criticizes its mismarketing as a bombastic romp, when it's more of a muddled comedy drama, pulling punches with melodrama. Common criticisms include the film's uneven tone, which swings between crass comedy and heavy drama without coherence, a lack of narrative progression, and outdated humor that feels like a 2008 time capsule. The frequent use of the C word in offensive jabs at minorities, trans people, and others are widely criticized as gratuitous and irresponsible. Key themes and elements. Performances. Danny Dyer, Jack. Critics agree Dyer brings charisma and energy, leaning into his familiar geezer persona. Some praise his raw intensity and fourth wall breaks, while others argue he's typecast, with the role offering no new challenges. Stephanie Leonidas, Danny, frequently highlighted as a standout. Her naturalistic performance as Jack's long-suffering wife adds emotional depth. Reviewers note her chemistry with Dyer and her role as the film's heart. Callum McNabb, Kenny Boyd. His portrayal of the erratic stepbrother is divisive. Some find his chaotic energy compelling, while others see it as poorly handled, with mental health issues played for laughs. Supporting cast. Jeff Bell's menacing father-in-law and Artie Dyer's role as Jack's son are noted positively, with the latter adding authenticity due to his real-life connection to Dyer. Tone and style. The film's tone is a major point of contention. It attempts to blend dark comedy, drama, and social satire but often feels disjointed. The animated opening is praised for its creativity, but rapid cut fight scenes and shaky camera work are criticized as disorienting. Fourth wall breaks are seen as both outrageous and cringe-worthy, with mixed success. The film's nostalgia for the 2000s British crime genre, The Football Factory, The Business, is evident, but many argue it feels out of touch in 2025. Humor and controversy. The humor, reliant on profanity, drug references, and anti-woke jabs, divides audiences. Some find it sporadically funny, especially gags about British towns or Dyer's delivery, while others call it lazy, dated, and offensive, targeting groups like trans people, minorities, and the disabled. The 18 certificate, rare in 2025, is attributed to its strong language and drug use, which some see as a badge of honor, others as gratuitous. Narrative and depth. The plot is criticized for its lack of depth and repetitive structure. Jack tries to change, relapses, and faces no real consequences, undermining the redemption arc. Dan's emotional journey and the family dynamics provide some nuance, but the film is faulted for not interrogating its themes: toxic masculinity, addiction, hooliganism, with insight. Comparisons to Train Spotting or This Is England highlight its failure to match their complexity. Audience reception. Audience reactions. particularly on platforms like Reddit and IMDb, mirror the critical divide. Fans enjoy its raw, unapologetic vibe, likening it to the Football Factory and appreciating its humor and Dyer's performance. It resonates with those familiar with British pub/football culture. Detractors find it boring, cliched, and offensive, disappointed by its weak plot and reliance on shock value. Some felt misled by the trailer, expecting a fun romp but getting a muddled drama. Conclusion: Marching Powder is a divisive film that thrives on its brash, unapologetic style but stumbles with its lack of narrative depth and dated sensibilities. Fans of Nick Love and Danny Dyer's earlier collaborations may find it a nostalgic, if flawed, return to form, with strong performances from Dyer and Leonidas. However, its crude humor, tonal inconsistency, and failure to meaningfully engage with its themes alienate many viewers and critics, who see it as a relic of a bygone era. If you're drawn to gritty, provocative British comedies and can tolerate offensive humor, it may offer some laughs. Otherwise, its repetitive plot and lack of substance might disappoint. For further details, check reviews on IMDb, The Guardian, or Rotten Tomatoes. If you'd like me to analyze specific aspects, e.g., performances, themes, or comparisons to other films, let me know. 23 Mozabe Tube. Like, share, subscribe for more.